whenever I'm hiring for the future or even really for the present, I kind of focus on my vibe with that person. You know, that's my first qualifier. I'm trying to build something for the future, so I need to know that I can rock with you for the future. What's good, Joe? It's Kenneth Stevens, and this is another edition of Grind Life. Today, I want to talk to you all about when to hire and how to make your selection. This is a question that I get all the time because people see that, I hired folks for my business very, very quickly, and they're like, man, how did you know it was the right time to hire? I've had colleagues call me and say, how did you know when it was time to get an assistant? Or when did you know it was time to hire an associate? And, the answer, honestly, is that it's different from business to business and probably from industry to industry. But for me, I think that what I have found is every time you hire, it needs to be based on need. And I know that sounds oversimplistic, but I don't necessarily mean based on your current need. You have to be able to project what your future needs are, and not just from a standpoint of like volume of work, but also where your business is going. So I'll give you the perfect example. For me, I noticed very early on when I decided I wanted to do construction litigation, I was getting turned down on a lot of contracts or on a lot of cases because we simply did not have the capacity to handle the work. So a lot of times people, look at their business and say, man, I can't afford help, or I'm not really busy enough for work. But if you have that mentality and you don't understand where you're trying to go and the personnel requirements for where you're trying to go, then you'll never get there. Because what I learned was I needed to hire. I needed more people even though I wasn't busy. And that meant that I was gonna take a loss for a while until I got busy enough. So what did I do? I went out and started adding attorneys, right? And the timing to a lot of people might have looked crazy. This kid is young, he doesn't have that many cases under his belt. Why is he beefing up his team already? Added people to my team, went to conferences, started selling that that we had an actual firm and it wasn't just me and staff. Next thing you know, because we have multiple attorneys that can manage these cases, that can handle this caseload, people start looking and say, oh yeah, he has a team. He has people that can handle that work. We start getting that work. People start coming into the office and seeing, oh yeah, there's multiple people with their head down doing work. I'm comfortable giving them that work. So that's a great example of, hiring for your need. Another example for hiring for your need, which didn't necessarily apply to me, but I think is applicable to a lot of businesses and a lot of situations, is you got to understand what your skill set is. And I think I've talked about this a little bit in another video, just briefly, but if you know you're the business person, but you have no creativity whatsoever, you may have to hire somebody that's creative, that can handle that creative side. If it's a manufacturing business and you're the numbers guy, but you have no operations experience, you may need to bring in some people that are good at operations. So that's another example where it's not necessarily like you're talking about hiring for need from the standpoint of volume, but it's need from the standpoint of skill set, right? And that can also apply to a situation where you're anticipating the need for that skill set, because let's say, you're getting ready to get a big manufacturing deal. Okay, well now you might need to bring in somebody that has that experience. So I say all that to say, when you're looking to hire, yes, it has to be based on need, but don't always think that the need means, oh, I have to need it right now. I can't afford it. We don't have, a whole bunch of work, or we don't have a whole bunch of orders or a whole bunch of sales, so I don't need that right now. No, sometimes the need it comes in a different form. It comes in where you're going, what the future looks like, or it comes in what you're lacking in your skill set, right? The other question I always get from a lot of people is, okay, well, how do you select who you're gonna hire? And when you're hiring for skill set, it's pretty easy, right? I mean, you find probably the best person that's qualified for the job that you can afford, right? But for me, when it's talking about hiring for the future, whenever I'm hiring for the future or even really for the present, I kind of focus on my vibe with that person. You know, that's my first qualifier. I'm trying to build something for the future, so I need to know that I can rock with you for the future, you know? And I think it's especially critical that in the beginning phases, when you're starting a new company, that you have a core team that gels really well. So one thing that I do that a lot of people find really, really strange is I make anybody, I don't care if you're gonna be a partner at my firm, you have to interview with my assistant. Right? Because at the end of the day, I can't even get anything done with my assistant. So if she doesn't like you and you're throwing off her juju, then you're killing the practice very early on. And all it takes is one bad employee or one bad relationship, one bad attitude, and that's a cancer to the business, you know? So when I hire, the first thing I look at is whether or not this person kind of fits the culture, whether or not this person is passionate, whether or not this person sees and shares my vision. Then I go on to looking at, okay, what are their skill set? Can they get the job done, right? Because a lot of times we have a tendency to look at, okay, where did this person go to school at? Where did this person graduate? What is this person, and all this different stuff. And sometimes I think those things can be deceiving. So I want to look at what are you passionate about, you know, whether or not culturally we're a good fit. And then I also want to not only look at where you went to school and all these different things, but I want to look at what have you actually done? Show me your actual work product. Show me something functional, you know, because a lot of times school and grades and all that is really, really romanticized. They blow it up. Oh, you went to Harvard. I know people that went to, you know, Ivy League schools and will tell you, yeah, I came out and didn't really know anything about the practical side of what I'm doing. So it's really about the nuts and bolts. What have you done? And when you find that person that you can afford, because that's a big part of it, you know, you got to be able to afford the person. But when you find that person that you can afford, that you have a really good relationship with, they fit the culture, you feel like, you know, there's some good synergy there. They're excited, they're passionate about what they're going to be doing, and they can get the work done. You make them an offer quick, and you get them off the market. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. You all share it. I want to hear about how some of you people are hiring folks. What are you using? Are you using Indeed? Are you using recruiters? How are you finding your talent? We'll probably talk about that in another video. Drop it in the comments and let us know. And as always, keep grinding.